Morning, everybody. May I request all of you all to please stand and maintain a minute's silence in reverence to our former Prime Minister, Shri Vajpayee. We'll maintain a 1 minute silence in his memory. Thank you very much. Our thoughts and condolences also to our colleagues, friends, and families in Kerala. We are with you in this moment of grief and strife. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a historic day, as for the very first time, the key stakeholders are in the same room with the same vision to be amongst the top 10 markets on the IFPI rankings by 2022. On behalf of IMI, the Chairman, Shridhar Subramaniam, and the IMI board members, a warm welcome to Shri Sushil Satpute, Director, DIPP, Mr. Hoshiar Singh, Registrar of Copyrights, Chairman IPRS, Javed Akhtar ji, and the IPRS board members, Chairman PPL, Shri Mandar Thakur, and the PPL board members, IMI members, PPL members from Mumbai and outside Mumbai. Thank you for taking time off, and thank you for flying into the city for this historic day. I was talking to a few people before I came in, and somebody who's been in the business for as many as 40 years has said, nothing like this has ever happened in the last 40 years, so it is historic in that sense. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, our international dignitaries, we've got old friends in the room, and we welcome you to this historic day, and our business associates in the industry. What we hope to achieve today is a roadmap to Vision 2022. India amongst the top 10 markets by 2022, and this will not be possible at all without each and every one of you in this room. The sessions that are coming up have been carefully selected and curated because we need voices across the sectors, across the regions. These voices eventually will be captured in a policy document, which will be the go-to document for the industry in the months to come, and we'll keep refreshing it. Hopefully from the feedback that we receive by the end of today, it's going to be a long day, I promise you that, but it's going to end with drinks and dinner in the evening. We'll take that feedback on board and try and improvise on it, and we'll try and make this, our endeavor is to make this an yearly event. I would like to pause here and also kind of reflect. The industry in Southeast Asia has been ravaged by piracy, but thanks to efforts by the members through the decades and years, we've managed to fight piracy in India, and IMI stands along with its partners like PPL and IPRS. And in these tough times, I would like to acknowledge personally on behalf of IMI, a few of the members who've carried the load and ensured that the industry and the industry bodies function. So a big round of applause to all our benefactors who've ensured that IMI functions fully without any impediments. My big applause to all our benefactors. Thank you. The tailwinds are certainly in our favor. Technological innovations have created superstar economics in various sectors. A few examples. Football is still the same game that it was played 100 years ago, but satellite television has made this a $28 billion industry globally. Closer home, kabaddi used to be played in the fields of the northern India, in the plains of India, in the nukkads of Bombay and parts of India. Today, that industry, thanks to television and technology, is a $3.3 million industry. So you've got two examples of what technology has done. The digital music explosion is now upon us. How can we ride the $17.3 billion wave? How do we tackle the headwinds? And I think that's going to be a big discussion today. What are the headwinds? How do we identify them? And how do we tackle them? With this thought, it's my pleasure to invite on stage the chairman of IMI, Mr. Shridhar Subramaniam, to give the opening keynote. A big round of applause to him, please.
Thank you, Blaise. First of all, good morning. At the very outset, let me first welcome Mr. Hoshiar Singh, Mr. Satpute for making the trip down from Delhi, all the chairman and the board members of both IMI, PPL and IPRS, the labels that have made the trip from, I think, all over India here, as well as some of the international visitors we have from CISAC, Merlin, and of course, great friends and supporters of the industry who've come, especially here. Say more welcome here. So it's a very special day, as Blaise said, and we are like, I think for the longest of times, I think this has taken 3 years in the making. We first thought about this 3 years ago. We finally it's all happening together. But a couple of facts, I think, for everybody in the room. Very few people knew this or know this. Even I just recently discovered that the IMI was first founded in 1936, is the second oldest member of the IFPI. And so it's essentially an institution that has been around for the longest of times, a platform in which a lot of labels have come together, has had its highs and lows over the years, had gotten into, I think, in some state of stasis for the last decade. We're seeing a renaissance right now, so we now have close to 250 members. And the new vision for the new IMI is quite simply to become an inclusive and an open platform for all the labels to come together, to address common issues that affect the industry, as well as essentially a platform to have a dialogue with the government and other key people that we have issues with. So we hope to make this an annual feature. We hope to make this a platform where people can talk to each other, and hence the name Dialogue here, and that's what we will go with. Now, quickly, just coming to, I think, the last 12 months probably has been the most transformative 12 months in the industry that I have seen. There have been a number of amazing achievements, the first of which is really been a landmark agreement between, I think, the publishers, the labels, and the creative community, and that, I think, is deserves a special round of applause. A number of people have worked very, very hard to make that happen. The second thing that we've really done is given each of these associations and societies a very clear mandate and a separate set of rights to work on. Earlier, there was all sorts of things going all over places. The third thing that we have done is inducted a whole host of new members onto the boards of each of these societies. Fourth is we've essentially changed the management in most of these societies and organizations, and we now have world-class managers. And it has not been easy. It has taken a lot of effort from a lot of people, but I think we are standing at the cusp of, I think, what will probably be a new era and a new start as we'd like to set out. So going forward, what would we like to do? I think we'd like to see the IMI as a platform, not just for the majors or the big Bombay-based labels, but something that effectively involves and engages the regional players, the smaller players, and effectively become a transparent, open, and an inclusive kind of a body in which people can participate. I can promise you one thing, this is no longer going to be run by just a few handful of big labels or get hijacked by a few people. So it gives me great pleasure, actually, to welcome Z Music on the board of IMI. I think it's the first time that they're actually joining us, so thank you for coming on board. We're actually hoping to increase the presence across all over India. So as Blaise mentioned, there's a single point agenda, which really is to grow the music industry to become a top 10 market. And for that, there are a number of things that need to happen. The first of which is, yes, we ultimately need to build a streaming market where consumers pay for that. Now, that's going to take some time, but that's something that we all have to work towards. The second, of course, is to create a landscape where there are multiple players all operating in the market, and there's enough competition in the market so that there's enough innovation and enough product innovation that the consumers can have. But those are all individual battles that the labels ourselves are going to have to fight. But there are certain common issues that we're going to have to come together on. And of these are the two big IMI agendas going forward. The first of which is anti-piracy. I mean, despite the increase in consumption, despite a number of, I think, streaming services coming on board and data and phones getting cheap, the revenue leakage that we have because of sideloading of illegal P2P apps or essentially sharing apps or even to websites based out of India, out of Pakistan, we lose somewhere between 1,200 to 1,500 crores. Around $300 million is what we lose to piracy each year. The legitimate music market is a mere 150 million, so we lose twice as much to piracy. So one of the big agendas for the IMI is to work closely with the government, all the agencies of the government and the various institutions to try and bring as much of the money leakage that we have into the legitimate market. And this is a long process. We're having great support from the ministry so far, and we hope to take it to the next level. The second more burning issue really is not just loss of piracy, but even the people who pay us. The second question is, are we getting fair value? The legitimate music industry, as I said, 850 crores, but that 850 crores powers some giant industries. It powers almost a 3,000, 4,000 crore radio industry, a 25,000 crore television industry, a huge 2,000 crore live music business, device sales, equipment sales, and a whole. So effectively, we believe that this $100 million industry powers almost a $2 billion industry outside. But those industries pay less than 2 to 3% towards the usage of music. And this, we believe, is a fair value issue that we have, and we have to address this. The latest darlings of the business, which is the streaming industry, and they are now effectively, and the valuations are staggering. We all know that. The Jio-Saavn merger that everybody's read, valued at $1 billion, is valued at 7,000 crores. It's a 4-year-old entity. Somebody like Radio Mirchi is valued at 3,300 crores. Whereas a company like Saregama, which probably controls the most amount of historic value for of music, today, after the turnaround and after the success of Karwan, is valued at 1,000 crores. This, we believe, is vastly unfair. There is huge amounts of discrepancies to which way the value lies. And not only that, it is these very same large companies who essentially complain and lobby with the government and insist on statutory and compulsory license provisions to further diminish our value, and effectively the recent notification about whether statutory licenses are applicable on internet companies is worrying. My plea to the ministry, our ministry, is quite simply that we need your help. We are the creative industry here who invests in talent, who invests in artists. We take the risks, we are keeping the culture alive, and it is us who need protection, not so much these high-value users, and that is something that I would like to appeal to give us a certain sense of fair balance that we can work with and compete with in a relatively equal manner. The recent approval, I think, by the Cabinet of the WCP and the WPPT treaties under the leadership of, I think, Joint Secretary Rajiv Agarwal, as well as the rest of the people, I think is commendable. And we need to give them a big round of applause that something like this has actually happened. India signs a number of global treaties, but very few of them get ratified by the Cabinet. And here is one such example of something like that happening. Now, we just hope that all of this is followed in letter and spirit, especially when it comes to the internet. In the last 12 months, Blaise, who's actually made, I think, a big difference. I think we all can see the difference that has happened to the IMI management. Thank you, Blaise. We've already taken some really positive initiatives, and a lot of the credit goes to, I think, Blaise and the board, who's actually spent a lot of time here. The first of which is we've commissioned Deloitte to do a study for us, which is to do a study on the economic impact of the music industry. What is it doing in terms of employment, the social impact, and the soft power that it brings to India as a whole. We expect to have this report ready by October, and we will essentially publish it in Delhi. That's really so that we will call a lot of people and essentially present it to the government. The second big initiative that Blaise is working on is, for the first time in our industry, to have an official music charts. It is important that an industry, as we grow, we need to have frameworks, we need to have institutions that work, we need to have a chart that people think is credible, people follow, artists want to engage with, platforms and labels want to compete for. So this is something that the team is working very hard on. It'll be a fair and a transparent chart. We actually hope to launch a weekly music chart in India for the first time, possibly by January of next year. And I think we'll need all your support to make that happen. The third thing is actually on the technology side. There's been a number of the smaller labels sitting in the regions, whether the works are registered. As we keep digitizing more and more of our content, the quality of the metadata that we have is pretty poor. So we, along with other countries in the region and the support of IFPI and KT here, we've actually commissioned a Singapore-based company wherein all our records will actually, for all the labels, will actually sit in one repository. This is a huge exercise that's underway, and will hopefully help better monetization, better transparency, and better forms of distribution. So this is all the good news. There are a couple of things that I think I'd like to leave as a message back to the room. One of this is a lot of the work over the last couple of months, last couple of years, has really been done by the 7 labels. It's really not yet been an industry-wide participation. It has really been, be it the settlement with the authors, be it really effectively the reforms that are happening at the societies. It's really 7 companies, that's Saregama, Tips, Aditya, Times, Universal, Venus, and ourselves. I think it's time now for the larger industry to come together. It'd be, as I said, one way to prevent all of this from getting hijacked is essentially more people join and participate and contribute. Each one of you at a regional level and a state level have relationships with the government, with agencies at state levels, and we need that help. If we have to combat piracy, if we have to fundamentally look at increasing our value. So I think with this, as I sit here, I've been in the industry now for a little over 20 years. It's probably the most positive, optimistic I have been. We've had a number of false starts and in a couple of hopeful moments in the past. But sitting where we are sitting right now, I think the future is amazing. And we'd like you all to join us in this journey, as Blaise says, to make it to a top 10 market. Thank you. And right now, it gives me great pleasure right now to call on stage next Mr. Javed Akhtar, who obviously needs no introduction. I think if you guys need introductions for him, you shouldn't be in the business. But as the chairman of IPRS, to come and give us his keynote. Javed sir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Shridhar Saab, for this short introduction. Otherwise, generally what happens that when I come to the podium, before I read the podium, the announcer says that obviously he doesn't need any introduction, but he doesn't take any chances and gives a lot longer and reads out my biodata. So I am safe from that embarrassment. I have no such illusion that I am going to add to some information to the people who are sitting under this roof, because most of you are obviously much more experienced and know about this industry and this business than me. But the fact remains that there are some certain factors that, as a chairman of IPRS, as a writer for almost 40 years, maybe more, I would like to sensitize people to some extent. In last 5,000 years, men continued sitting on a horse and had an oil lamp in the house. But suddenly, in the last 200 years, we took a leap. And all that you see today has happened in the last 200 years. All the technology. The same way, I think our music industry for a very long time was only sitting on an obsolete horse for a very, very long time, and suddenly in the last 2 years, some major changes have taken place. And for the betterment, as a matter of fact. I mean, some people are a bit shocked, some people are still trying to adjust with that, and so on and so forth, but the fact is that it's a total win-win situation. We lost a lot of time, if I may say, in some kind of a civil war within our industry between the labels and the artists and so on, wasted our energy, time, resources. But better sense prevailed from both the sides. We came together, and thanks to the governments, I'm saying governments, because whether it was the previous government or the present government, both of them have been extremely understanding. Even when this present government was in the opposition, this bill that changed the scenario could not have been passed without their help, without their total patronage. And after this, I think we have started working together in a different way. And that is the right way. Because if the relationship between, say, the producer of the music or the label and the artist is only transactional, temporary, the moment you hand over the DAT or the track, your work is over. You, as an industry, are losing a great support. You were losing it because the kind of goodwill artist commands in any society all over the world is unparalleled. It is the painter, it is the musician, it is the poet that contests the better side of a human being, the most sensitive side. And when the society, the powers that be, the government meets them, comes in touch with them, they prefer to help them because that makes them feel human. At any point of time, in a political scene, there have been so many fights and oppositions and bitterness and confrontation and so on. Why did it happen that as far this issue was concerned, the worst opponents were together? We got same kind of a help from the previous government, and we are getting the same kind of help from this government. People talk so much about the bureaucracy of this country, red tapeism, bureaucrats are cynical, and they don't care. Every time we have met a bureaucrat, he has gone out of the way to help us. Why? Because the moment you include the artist, the moment you bring the creative, they give a human face to the problem. They contact the better human being hidden in every human being. This cannot be substituted. This soft power is too precious to be lost. And today you will need it, and you do need it much more than ever. Technology is moving ahead in leaps and bounds. Before you get familiar with one, it becomes obsolete and something new comes. Doors are opening, but there is no watchman there. So people are taking advantage of vulnerability of music industry. You, as an industry, are losing billions and billions of dollars because there is no check. Every time the law becomes slightly outdated, you have to again change it. You have to update it, match it with the changing technology. There are companies, international bodies, which are as powerful, as big, as rich as many of the countries. We are one side, this music industry is on the other side, they are there. How do we compete with them? How do we make them listen to our point of view? For that, there should not be any dissension among us. That is not possible. All the power that is available to us, all the goodwill that is available to us, all the resources and sources that we can bring to the table should be used. I think to a great extent we have been able to achieve this on IPRS. I mean, people who are on the other side and they were opposing each other, today sit together, try to solve the problems, and to a great extent we have been able to do it. And things are solving. They are becoming better by the day. There are still some people who are outside, they are out of it, for reasons. Some reasons are valid and justified. They have their way of working, they had their certain tradition of their business, and that cannot also be disturbed to a great extent, and how to adjust with that, how to adjust their problems, their conditions with us, and so on. But there are some who are talking positively, and I'm very sure that very soon we'll be together. But there are some other people who are still living in some kind of time bubble. And their problem is not with us, but the law of this country. They don't like the law. No, I don't agree with it. Maybe some people don't agree that there is why left-hand drive. It should be like in USA, it should be right-hand drive. But as long as there is left-hand drive, you have to drive on left. The same way, as long as you don't like the law, okay, you go to the court. We are a democratic society, democratic country. We can challenge it. You change it, meet the government, tell them that it's so unfair, and so on and so forth. But as long as this law is there, you have to adhere to it. Not adhering is criminal. So we have to, I hope, better sense prevail on them, and they understand it, and I hope that we We'll meet them again. We have met them a couple of times. We'll meet them again and make them understand. But otherwise, I mean, we'll have to tell it to the, whether the court or the government, that this is how things are and something has to be done about it. And it will be done because nobody in this country or any civilized country can defy the law and live happily ever after. That's not possible. So I believe that if we understand one thing, that one of the major stakeholders are those who are providing the raw material, the real thing, ultimately what is being sold, what is being publicized, what is being distributed is music. And those who are creating it are not just minions who do the job and go out. As long as you would believe it, or anybody would believe it, will not be helpful in spreading this industry, making it more powerful, more effective. It can only be powerful and effective if all the stakeholders, including the artists, are given their right position, their right share, and without that, you will be walking on one foot. And if you walk on one foot, you can't walk very fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Javed Saab. Everything you say sounds like music to us. With that, I'd like to welcome Chairman PPL, Mr. Mandar Thakur on stage, please.
August gathering here today in August. Thank you all for coming here. Thank you, Blaise, Siddhant, and the rest of the IMI team for putting this together. This is indeed a momentous occasion. It's momentous not just because we are all here, it's momentous because why we are here today. As you all know, the Indian music industry is slowly growing again today after many years of decline and having been plundered by piracy and inability of establishing fair value. Adaptability has been the name of the game, and in recent times, and that very same adaptability has fueled the growth that we've seen in the last couple of years. And it's certainly not been easy work when every single user wants to challenge our rights. The IMI is poised to further fuel that growth if the right circumstances are created and managed. Infrastructure, support from the government, aggressive collective licensing, fair value of our content, the most important, and a clear and transparent business process will go a long way to overcome some of our common hurdles and keep our business partners engaged. The purpose of gatherings like today is exactly that, to foster dialogue not only between the various stakeholders, but importantly, also between each and every single member company who's present here today. So with all these factors in mind, the new PPL has begun the great task of restructuring itself, cleaning itself of the baggage of the past, and have a brand new professional management team in place. The new mantra of PPL is simply put, business first and nothing else. And with that outlook, a few steps have been undertaken at the new PPL that will see the organization in a new light. Today, there is tremendous clarity and purpose of rights that PPL represents. As an organization that deals in public performance and radio rights of its members, as it was literally originally set out to do. We have mandated PPL with 5 key parameters. Number 1 being to engage all users and clients. Number 2, membership expansion to make this an all-inclusive body. Number 3, technology upgrade and future readiness. Number 4, global integration. And number 5, a very, very healthy governance, compliance, and transparency. My colleague Rajat Thakur, PPL's new CEO, will outline some key changes in detail when he takes the stage. Today, there is a new board in place, and that includes an independent director. Again, a first. The very fact that I am here chatting with you all today as the chairman of PPL's board is again a very big first in itself, that independent labels are now playing an all-important role in restructuring the industry. In keeping up with requirements, we have appointed new internal auditors, Ernst & Young, who are conducting a complete overhaul of PPL's tariffs, processes, financial controls, compliance, human resources, and overall general operations. On an industry-to-industry conversation, PPL is engaging IMA and the other hotel associations. Apart from that, as a matter of news, we welcome T-Series who've reaffirmed their faith in PPL and have recently joined PPL. We welcome T-Series Managing Director Bhushan Kumar on the PPL board. We also welcome Mr. Manohar Naidu of Lahari Music to PPL. And in summation, PPL is the only IFPI recognized public performance CMO in India, and we're counting on IFPI for global best practices and integration. Indian culture and Indian music is played across the world. As Indian culture explores globally, we have high hopes that the IFPI will help tap into and integrate into those worldwide collection systems. We also very, very much look forward to a closer working relationship with the DIPP and the ROC. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. With that, I'd like to welcome Mr. K.T. Ang, Regional Director, IFPI, on stage, please.
Good morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be before all of you today. I spoke to some of you just a couple of months ago, so some of this material, for some of you, you would have seen it. For that, please forgive me, but in the interest of time, I'll go through it very quickly. I will start with a global overview of the recorded music industry last year. So last year, the global recorded industry pulled in revenues of $17.3 billion US dollars, and this was an 8.1% growth over 2016. This also represents the third consecutive year in which the industry has grown. And here I'd like to share with you this chart. If you look at this chart, you will see that the industry, in fact, for the nearly 20 years, fell from over 25 billion US dollars a year to slightly more than 14 billion US dollars in around 2014. Around 2015, the first growth was recorded in nearly 20 years, up 3%, 3.2%. This was followed by a nearly 6% growth in 2016, and then 8.1% last year. I'm pleased to be able to share with you that for the first half of this year, all Asian territories are positive with the exception of one, unfortunately Singapore, the country that I come from. But we're a very small market, and subscription is really quite mature. Global growth, we expect to come in around 5%. We're being conservative here. The first half, we're actually recording around 8% growth. Okay, so I think this year we expect to see another positive growth story, and that really is on the back of a lot of work that the industry has put in, including fighting piracy and so on over the last 2 decades. Now, let me share with you now the breakdown. You'll see from this that digital now accounts for 55% of, sorry, let me get back that. 55% of the total market revenues. If we strip out the public performance rights share, it is in fact about 65% of global revenue. So digital is extremely, extremely important to our industries. And when we talk of digital, we're talking about streaming, downloads, mobile, and other kind of interactive revenue streams. Now here, you will see a breakdown of the digital revenues. And from this, you can see that streaming accounts for the bulk. Oops, sorry, it just keeps jumping. For the bulk, at 70% of global revenue. So streaming is extremely crucial. As all of you know, the Indian market, the number of paid subscribers are still extremely low. So I will come back to this topic again shortly. Now here is a quick picture of the top 10 markets. You see US is number 1, Japan number 2, Germany number 3, UK 4, France at 5, Korea at number 6. So there's a second Asian territory up there. Canada at number 7, Australia at number 8, Brazil at 9, and to top the picture, China at 10. So we actually have got 4 Asia-Pacific territories in the top 10. So the question, of course, is where is India? Okay, let me jump through this very quickly. There's a duplication of slides. You will see India is at number 19 with total revenues last year of slightly more than 130 million US dollars. So I think some ways to go. And of course, the inevitable question arises, if China is at number 10, why is India at number 19? So I think hopefully in the course of the day, we will have some time to analyze this situation. So quick focus on the Indian market. As I said, at number 19 in terms of total market, physical is ranked number 31st, digital at 14, so not too bad. Performance rights, not so good, at number 32. And then sync rights, representing the strength of the music industry here in India, of the film industry here in India, is higher than normal. But again, this is actually, if you compare with the sync market in the United States, we are grossly underperforming the amount of royalties the music industry can extract for the use of music in movies. So here is a quick picture for you, 2 points to make. You will see that digital has been growing, doubling from 2014, and now represents 78% of total Indian music revenues. Physical, obviously, has fallen by a third, from 30 million down to 9 million. Public performance rights collections have dropped also substantially from over 20 million down to just slightly more than 10 million. And I think you have heard speakers before me, a lot of measures are being put in place to try to improve the situation there. And of course, again, the sync revenues at 7.7 million. I'll skip this. A quick picture of the digital market. So you can see for digital, 33% of our revenues are coming from paid subscribers, 27% from the free but legal services, and then the balance from downloads, video you can see is still very strong as well, and then the rest from mobile and other kinds of digital services. Okay? So, you have heard this. The Indian market is underperforming as compared to, say, China. At IFPI, the main board has identified, in fact, 3 or 4 developing markets, and you can see that China and India rank number 1 and number 2. The other 2 markets would be Russia and Brazil. Now, if you look at China, you see that the per capita revenues is at 21 cents per head. In India, it's at 10 cents per head. If you compare with the United Kingdom, it is at $20 a head. So I think if we measure ourselves, we take measure steps, if we can catch up first with China at 21 cents, perhaps then go to $2, and then aim for $20. So I think the good point coming out from this is that, if we work together as an industry, if we put the right measures in place together with government assistance, this is going to be a tremendous market for growth in the coming 10, 20 years. But if we do the wrong things, we take the wrong measures, we fight with each other, unfortunately, we're just going to be limping along as, using the imagery that Javed Saab has used, on one leg. Shridhar mentioned about the charts. We had originally had a very aggressive timetable to launch the charts as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it's now pushed back slightly, but I think it is on the plan. We strongly recommend charts for India. It is a positive way to celebrate the successes by recorded artists, and it will also jive very nicely with what IFPI is doing. As some of you may know, IFPI actually publishes annually an annual global charts. If you look at the top 10 at the moment, all of them are dominated by non-Asian artists. And again, I think it is a goal for us to push Asian artists, whether Indian, Chinese, whatever, up into the global charts as well. And I think in the case of India, again, because of the variety that you have in your country. We can start, for example, with international, and then when we move into domestic, we can look at, specifically regional charts to launch before we go into a combined charts. So there's a lot of work that we need to do as we try to develop industries, the music industry here in India, and this is one of the measures that we can use. Now, let me quickly mention about PPL. We have heard the PPL chairman mention. I wanted to share with you the global picture. You can see that in terms of global revenues in 2017, IFPI member collecting societies grows 2.4 billion US dollars in terms of royalties. I think my ex-colleague from CISAC will share with you they are about 5 times much more than us. So that is our target, to catch up with the publishing side. So for Rajat, you have a lot of work to do here in India, as well as for me working with other colleagues throughout the region. Revenues from collecting society can account for anything between 20 to 35% of a recording label's income. Now, I think that may come as a surprise to some of you, because right now, if you look at India, you are just short of 9%. So again, this is another piece of your revenue pie that if we work together, we can definitely develop and ensure that you have a thriving music industry. IFPI is working closely with PPL. For a number of years, we had no visibility. The changes that have been put in place, mentioned by Shridhar, have now ensured that IFPI is working very closely with PPL. We work closely on the constitutional changes. We are clearing certain historical issues, and we are putting in place the global documentation and distribution systems that is required for clear and transparent distribution of royalties collected. And in a message to the Indian government, we hope that you can approve the registration of PPL as soon as possible so that we can work together to grow this industry. Quick point on Section 31D. Now, originally, Section 31D, as some of you are aware, was introduced to give a license to broadcasters to broadcast without the need to secure permission. They just need to pay royalties. Now, an interpretation was released around 2016 which extends that license to include all forms of digital usages. Now, we are very pleased to hear the announcement of India's accession to the WCT and WPPT. I take this opportunity to highlight that under those treaties, an exclusive making available right is required, and if you continue to apply that interpretation, it would, in our view, run foul of your obligations under the international treaties. IFPI is very happy to work together with the Indian government to work through this issue and ensure that, in particular, interactive transmissions in online environment is not subject to a compulsory license. Now, I'll conclude quickly with a study that IFPI conducts every year. For the last few years, we've included India. What is the Indian consumer, music consumer doing online? And tomorrow, I will have the opportunity to share more information with you. So here's a quick overview. Indians spend 21.5 hours a week listening to music. And this is higher than the global average of 17.8 hours. So, you are a very music-loving country. Secondly, 95% of internet users in India consume music through on-demand streaming, with audio streaming used by 86% of internet users in India. Thirdly, YouTube is responsible for 14% of all music listening time and 36% of all on-demand music streaming time. So the importance of YouTube is very high. The reason why I mention this is it relates to an issue called the value gap issue, which I hope to discuss with you this afternoon. Radio continues and remains to be the most used method for listening to music, with 91% of Indian consumers indicating that they obtain music from that, but it took up just 9% of total listening time. So piracy remains a major problem in India, with 72% downloading music through string ripping. And let me then talk about music piracy. In fact, 76% of Indian internet users aged 16 to 64 engage in some form of music piracy. Now, this is much higher than, say, in India, than in China. The Chinese study showed about 64%. I personally believe that, again, that figure for China may not be accurate. It's, in my view, much lower now because of the wide availability of legal and free music services. In any case, I repeat the point, 72% through stream ripping, and most Indians convert to MP3. I would like to inform you that the IFPI German National Group has started legal action against convert to MP3, and we expect to see quick results. In fact, for those of you who may have heard of and may have even used YouTube MP3, you would realize that that no longer exists. That site is now controlled by IFPI. Our American National Group took action last year. It was shut down, and the control of the site transferred to IFPI. So this is the second action we're taking, and we intend to take action globally against other stream ripping sites that allow you to download, or consumers to download apps that then go on to YouTube to rip off music which they are not permitted to do. Final point I want to make is Google is being used to search for free music, with 55% of search engine users looking for piracy methods explicitly. Again, I raise this because we're running a very strong anti-piracy campaign against search engines like Google, trying to impose liability on them to ensure that they either filter or take down and have stay down facilities, because 95.7% of IFPI issued takedown notices are for repeat content. Right? That means when we issue the notice and it comes down, it pops up straight away after that. Okay? Now, on that note, to conclude that the recording industry continue to invest heavily in new music. We spend about 27% of our revenues globally to push new music out to consumers. And this is way higher than even the chemical or the airline industries. So please support your industry, and I think IFPI is more than happy to work closely with all Indian record companies, as well as the Indian recording music industry, as well as the Indian government, to achieve the goal of pushing the Indian music market into the top 10 within the next 5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ang, for your insights. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on stage CEO SOCAN and Chair of the Board CISAC, Mr. Eric Baptiste.
Good morning, everyone. I come today to Mumbai from Toronto, Canada, and it's a great pleasure to be back here, and I would like to commend and thank IMI and Blaise for organizing this event that is already teeming with energy. I wear two hats that got me to Mumbai this morning, as CEO of SOCAN, as you heard, and Chair of the Board of CISAC. As CEO of SOCAN, I'm in charge of the world's 7th biggest collective management organization. In a country of only 38 million people, we are able to collect about 350 million Canadian dollars a year. So that's quite a benchmark for IPRS under the leadership of Javed Akhtar, a renewed IPRS that we are very confident about. I could speak a lot about SOCAN, about the people we work for, the amazing talent that we represent, the classics like Bryan Adams or the late Leonard Cohen or Randy Bachman. But I also want to point out the fact that those chart-topping artists and creators that dominate streaming. Many of them are Canadian and are members of SOCAN, like Drake, The Weeknd, Alicia Cara, Shawn Mendes, and it gives us great pride to collect their rights all over the world. But here, this morning, you want to hear not really about SOCAN, but about CISAC, the World Federation of Collective Management Societies, managing the rights of music publishers and creators of all genres, not only music, but also movies, literature, theater, and visual arts. Most of the collections come from music, 85%, and I'm afraid I will probably throw some extra numbers at you this morning after the numbers that my former colleague and friend, Katie, thrown at you with slides. It's important because I share your belief that India should play a bigger role on the world stage, that India has the potential to become indeed a top 10 market also in the rights management area. But first, let me go back to the global stage, and CISAC being an organization not unlike IFPI, tasked with organizing the work of the 240 societies in 121 countries that have a membership. And those societies do collect quite a significant amount of money. It is with great pride that we've seen those numbers grow year after year to reach 9.2 billion euros in 2016. The CISAC, being headquartered in Paris, uses the euro as its reference currency. So to put it in US dollars, it is a bit more than $10.5 billion that were collected in 2016. The 2017 numbers are being finalized now. The timing of this conference is unfortunate. We expect to be able to release those numbers soon, but they're not ready yet. I understand the trends are about the same: growth, growth, and growth. The numbers have doubled in current dollars over 20 years. I saw the slides from IFPI showing a reference here, 1999. At about the same time, the CISAC members' collections were about $5 billion. And now, as I said, it's a bit more than $10 billion, 10.5. In the past 4 years, 2012 to 2016, CISAC members their collections have grown by about 20%. So here as well, you see a dynamism that is not abating, and it is extremely important because the story is a bit different. If I had been bringing charts, you would have seen mostly continued growth. With a few dips during those 20 years, you would have seen that in 2002, after 9/11 and economic turmoil this created, there was a little dip, and of course, a more significant dip around 2010 after the global financial crisis hit, but the numbers recovered very quickly. This is crucial because at the same time, recording music industry faced a terrible crisis that thankfully it is emerging from at this point. But the revenues that our members collected around the world have been providing some kind of cushion for the creators and music publishers that depend on those revenues to invest in new music and to also reward the creators and investors in talent. Turning my attention to what could happen here. Those $10.5 billion are collected mostly in Europe, North America, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. But Asia Pacific, despite being home of half of humanity, being home to vibrant economies, no need to remind Indians about that, accounts for only 15% of those $10.5 billion a year. And this is mostly thanks to Japan, thanks to Australia and New Zealand, thanks to South Korea, and thanks to Hong Kong. This is something that should change. If you look at the world average of collections per head, and once again, you can see that CISAC and IFPI use metrics that are not that different. The world average of collections per capita is 1.48 euro per year. So that's a bit less than $2 a year. Asia Pacific is way under that. Asia Pacific is at 0.40 cents a year. So it's less than 20% of the world average. And I'm not even mentioning India, that got me running out of zeros to account for the percentage. So I'm mentioning this not because I want to assign any kind of blame or because I've come some kind of a Schadenfreude. I'm mentioning this to underline the potential. I'm mentioning this to underline the fact that in Asia Pacific, generally speaking, but especially here in India, there is a potential to grow very quickly. And having been following the situation with IPRS in the past few years, and now being very optimistic that under Javed Akhtar's wise leadership, IPRS is being reborn and will soon be readmitted as a full member in the CISAC world. I believe that your country has an amazing chance, an amazing potential to turn the corner. Let's dream a little bit. If you were able to get close to the world average, not the North American or European average, the world average, it's hundreds of millions of US dollars that would be collected on behalf of Indian creators and music publishers, but also on behalf of the world creators whose music is being performed and being reproduced here in India. At the full world average, still average. I think it's a bit unrealistic, but why not? It would be $2 billion US dollars. This country would not even be in the top 10. You would be number 2 or number 1 at world average of collections per head. So this is a call to action. It's a call to action to the industry, and this amazing gathering this morning makes me even more optimistic. I've been fortunate enough to be able to have conversations not only with the leaders of IPRS, but also PPL and leaders of the leading music businesses in this country over the past maybe couple of years or so. And I know this is your will. I know this is your intent. I know this is your plan. And you should be proud of it. That you have the potential to grow very quickly. You have the potential to take your rightful place in the music ecosystem, in the world music ecosystem, provided you play your cards right. And I would also like to call on the Indian government, and I'm very pleased to see distinguished representatives there as well, to support the emerging unity here in India, to support the reorganized, re-energized PPL, but of course primarily, as far as I'm concerned, IPRS. These organizations want to do the right thing. I know that IPRS, for example, has pledged to comply with the series of rules that CISAC has put in place and that CISAC is monitoring. Maybe we'll have a chance to discuss that a bit later this afternoon, called the professional rules. CISAC is not only an organization that compiles numbers, that helps societies around the world advocate on behalf of composers, creators, and publishers, but also an organization that maintains very stringent rules and standards that its societies have to comply with. The professional rules of CISAC are not optional. They're not nice to have. They are a condition for becoming a member of CISAC and remaining a member of CISAC. And they provide for transparency, they provide for accountability, they provide for good governance, and also they provide for efficient and quick, accurate collection and distribution of royalties. Your collective management organization here for copyright, for authors' rights, IPRS, has pledged to comply with those rules, and this is a great development. We are looking forward to welcoming IPRS back into the Confederation. A decision is expected in October, and you can be sure that from my vantage point of Chief Executive Officer of SOCAN, and also, and primarily as Chairman of the Board of CISAC, I will do my best to make sure that this happens and that you, Indian creators, Indian businesses in music, play a more active and deserved role within the community of societies. I could go on forever about this, about CISAC. I could also mention Safe Harbor and the points that Katie discussed recently. CISAC and IFPI agree that Safe Harbor provisions are outdated, that creates value gap or transfer of value issues, and legislation is necessary to address that. But maybe we'll have some opportunity to discuss that later as well during the panel that will follow this session. So in closing, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, to bring you the greetings of the World Federation of Copyright Societies, and also to encourage you to continue down that path, more unity, more transparency on behalf of the millions of people who create music in India, whose companies depend on music to create further wealth. The chairman of IMI alluded to those businesses that depend on music, and there is also a study that you can find on the CISAC website, cisac.org, that we commissioned in 2015 called Creative Times, and it shows that creative-powered industries worldwide, TV, museums, libraries, you name it, had a global turnover of $2,250 billion. That's about the GDP of your country, India. So this is extremely important. Creative industries power other industries, they power jobs all over the world, and they should be supported, especially by decision makers, governments, and parliaments. Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today in Mumbai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause and welcome on stage Chairman and MD, Tips Industries, Mr. Kumar Taurani.
Hello. Respected Javed Saab, Government of India participants and friends. हम जो आज मिले हैं यहाँ पर, हम सब ये बातें कर रहे हैं कि हमें in the next 10 years we have to come in top 10 industries. But I think हमें थोड़ा past में भी देखना चाहिए ये सब क्या हुआ था. See, IMI जैसे हमारे chairman श्रीधर जी ने बताया कि 7 companies is taking this kind of a load for last so many years. We have, through IPRS, we have paid artist community around 140, 130 crores. हमने जो piracy के पीछे जितने initiatives लिए थे, रुबेरो साहब जो हमारे साथ constantly 15 साल के लिए थे, उनके through हमने around 60-70 crore रुपया या 80 crore rupees IMI has spent to control piracy. And there are so many things we have done. We have trained judiciary, we have trained police, and around 200-250 crores. ये जो 90% of these 7 label उन्होंने burnt लिया हुआ है. शायद अगर आप देखो इंडिया में अगर आज ये इंडस्ट्री है, म्यूज़िक इंडस्ट्री, वी टॉक अबाउट लेजिटिमेट इंडस्ट्री, बट पाकिस्तान में नहीं है, श्रीलंका में नहीं है, बांग्लादेश में नहीं है, हमारे नेबरिंग कंट्रीज़ में नहीं है. So I think we have really invested our monies, blood, time and so much of effort we have done. Now touchwood एक अच्छी बात है कि हम एक इंडस्ट्री लास्ट ईयर हमने बहुत सारे पिछले 5-6 साल से हमारा एफर्ट था कि ये साथ करें. जावेद साहब से बहुत सारे मीटिंग्स हुए एंड अल्टीमेटली हम आपस में सेटल कर गए और ये बहुत अच्छी बात है एंड इट्स विन विन फॉर इंडस्ट्री. पर्टिकुलरली कंपनीज लाइक मी एंड मेरे से जितने छोटे लेवल्स हैं, वी आर अ मिड साइज कंपनी, उनके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है IMI, PPL, IPRS, ये इंडस्ट्री बॉडीज़ बहुत ज़रूरी है. तो मेरे ख्याल से ये बहुत अच्छा हुआ है कि हम एक साथ हुए हैं, एक साथ हम फाइट कर रहे हैं एंड दिस इनिशिएटिव आया मैंने जो आज लिया है, आई एम रियली वेरी हैप्पी अबाउट इट, क्योंकि देयर इज स्टिल लॉट ऑफ मेनी प्रॉब्लम्स वी आर फेसिंग. जैसे रिसेंटली आई डिसाइडेड कि जो मेरा दिस 31D is, there was a company, is a major telco company, they kept on negotiating with me for 16 months. And 16 months के बाद वो मेरे को एक ऐसी फिगर दे रहे थे जो कि मेरा रियल मार्केट शेयर से भी बहुत कम है. आई टोल्ड देम कि नहीं होगा ये, तो प्लीज़ आप मेरा भले माल उतार दीजिए, मेरा माल ना चलाइए. सडनली दे स्लैप्ड मी अ 31D नोटिस. अगर आप 31D नोटिस देते हो तो उसमें भी आपको कुछ रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस फॉलो करना है. यू कांट गो एब्रप्टली एंड गिव मी 31D नोटिस. चलिए, एंड 31D नोटिस इज एक्चुअली फॉर रेडियो इंडस्ट्री, इट्स नॉट फॉर इंटरनेट और एनीथिंग. तो बट दे गिवन मी, वी फॉट अ बैटल. Company like me spent 60-70 lakh on the case. Still order is awaiting. We give that company a very tough fight. They chose me. Why they chose me? Because I am a mid-sized player. They don't want to fight with big players. So I think abhi bhi kitne there is so many major players. They are not coming together. They are still one or two majors have come together. They realize ki what is the what jointly we can bring on the table. But there is so many players. I think around 40-50% industry is still outside. They don't want to participate in all those sharings or joining IMI. So I really feel ki time has come. IMI should be together. All majors should join in and support this industry. If we want to really achieve top 10 markets in the world, why top 10? Why not top 5? I think India has great potential. जो हम आज स्पेंड लेवल्स हो रहे हैं, we see, if you see, go to Punjab or many such big state, you will see every household has BMW, Range Rover, Tata has bought. मेरे ख्याल से जितने वर्ल्ड में नहीं बिकते होंगे शायद इंडिया में बिकते हैं. तो there is a potential. India has a big country, potential है, but we have to see really regularize this market, come together, all people should come and we really grow this market. Thank you very much. I think सब साथ में करेंगे तो अच्छा होगा. And as far as music goes, जब तक कान है तब तक म्यूजिक रहेगी. So please आप I feel कि we really need a big support from particularly from government of India. I think वो अगर हमें हम सोच रहे हैं कि आज हम 800-900 करोड़ की इंडस्ट्री हैं and where other my जो मेरी इंडस्ट्री यूज़ करते हैं 25,000 crores. They don't mind losing 25,000 crores. Telecom company, radio companies. There is one radio company earning 300 crores annually, and they are paying only 6 crore to the industry. By 3,500 crore की total industry, radio industry, and they want to just pay 70 crores. माना 3,500 में 70 crores क्या होते? कौन सी इंडस्ट्री का रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट 70 crores है? I have never seen. जब मैं फिजिकल कैसेट बेचते थे, 30% was my raw material cost. Only, not even my music rights. Only a tape cost, जो tape and जो raw material cost था. So please, we have to look at it कि हमारी जो true valuations हैं, people have to understand, partner have to understand कि नहीं हमको true valuation मिलनी चाहिए. And even please, मेरी request है government of India से भी, please look into detail of this कि क्या है, real problem कहाँ पर है, कि वाकई में वो बड़े players हमको पैसे देना नहीं चाहते हैं, what is real problem is, and then please take calls. Thank you so much.